Welcome back to Hospitality Reinvented. This is episode number 21 with your host, Doug Radkey, the founder and principal consultant at KRG Hospitality. So today we're diving into one of the more maybe uncomfortable but absolutely necessary conversations to have in our industry, and that is the bad actors in consulting and coaching. It may be a controversial topic for me being a consultant myself, but you've seen them. You know, these quotation mark consultants who, with no history of deep hospitality experience, pop up online or on LinkedIn talking strategy. Now, let's be honest, the pandemic, along with AI tools, have added fuel to this fire where now everyone thinks they can be a consultant. But real consulting is more than a title. It is a responsibility. It is trust. And when someone comes in with empty frameworks and generic advice or worse, what they do is they break that trust and they leave damage long in their wake. So today I want to unpack a few things here. One, why it's a privilege to be a consultant in hospitality and what happens when people treat it maybe like a side hustle. And number two, the signs to look out for when hiring a coach or consultant. And number three, what real consulting demands, the real frameworks and the critical thinking and the leadership and the execution. And the fourth, I want to share some stories from operators who have, unfortunately been burned and what we can do differently. Because let's be honest, the stakes are high. You are not hiring an advisor to, decorate your margins. You are trusting someone with your business and your staff and your legacy as an entrepreneur. All right. So let's begin with what I wrote in a recent article on this topic. And that is that it is not a right, but that it is a privilege to be a coach and a consultant in the hospitality industry. It's not a role that you just stumble into, that you don't just wake up and one day and say, I'm consulting. It is something that you earn. Why? Because when an operator invites you in, they are handing you more than their business numbers. They are handing you their stress and their dreams and the livelihoods of their team and the reputation that they have within their community. They are saying, I want your judgment, I want your leadership, and I want your integrity. When a consultant treats that lightly, they promise, maybe fast fixes in the next 30 days, or they hand over a template that leaves more questions than answers and then disappears. They are not consulting. They are collecting a quick paycheck and moving on to the next. At KRG, we don't just hand over strategy, for example. We walk alongside the operator. We challenge their beliefs and we enforce accountability. We act, when discomfort shows up, because strategy without execution, that's just theory. And no one really wants just theory. Now, let me pull no punches here. There are people out there who call themselves consultants but lack the fundamentals they're being paid to deliver. Here's what I see, and I really have a hunch here, and you might see the same thing. Again, these consultants, they use the title but haven't done serious operations in hospitality specifically. LinkedIn is full of generic posts and limited track record, type content. The AI consultants now, with AI, people, feel entitled to call themselves experts as well. They spin these frameworks without context. They plug in ideas from generic templates and they hope that something will stick. And then there is the one-time transformers. Maybe they pop in and advise a few cosmetic changes and then leave without accountability, without depth, and without any follow-through. These bad actors create a ripple effect of harm, right? So this is what happens next. There is now these disillusioned clients who feel that consulting doesn't work. There is the operators who are burned by empty promises, a general distrust in the value of real consulting and coaching here. That really in turn hurts the reputation of those of us who are doing legitimate, high integrity work. Those of us who are truly looking to transform this industry, which leads me really to the next point that I want to discuss here, right? Let's talk about what real consulting actually demands. From my perspective, these are really the non-negotiables that there should be, for first off, frameworks and context. You need frameworks, yes, but they need to be applied to context. You can't just drop the same playbook for a cocktail bar in Manhattan, New York, and expect it to work, maybe the same as at a cocktail bar in Orlando, Florida. Real consultants, they tailor and adapt and test and iterate. Now, the second non-negotiable for me is the critical thinking. When the first idea meets resistance, your job isn't, to pivot to a new trend. It's to dig deeper and to question and to pressure test assumptions. You must see beneath the surface and have layers of critical thinking. And this is, more needed now than ever before with diluted AI strategies that are out there. Now, the other non-negotiable is, of course, experience. They have to walk in those shoes, whether it is after opening a number of restaurants or managing a variety of hotels. Expertise is forged, not borrowed, which really flows into the next non-negotiable that I want to go over, which is transformative thinking. You don't just, start up or fix operations. You don't just make minor tweaks and call it a day. You shift the entire mindset and the identity. You shift how the operator sees their role, how they lead, and how they build long-term culture. Transformation then leads to optimization, which again leads to a next non-negotiable for me, and the final one here, which is leadership and execution. You show up when the hard decisions arrive. Maybe it is equipment related, staffing decisions, renegotiations, pivots, maybe to the vision. You stay present, you hold the line, and you execute together. If your consultant checks none of these non-negotiables, you may want to keep looking. So what do you look for when you are onboarding a consultant? Some people ask me this fairly often, actually. How do I pick a good one? How do I avoid being burned? Now, here are the guardrails that I would recommend. Look for success, not just buzzwords. Don't hire someone for their trailer version of experience. Hire someone with depth and strong processes and case studies and measurable results in hospitality. Hire someone who truly understands the problem that you are looking to have solved. You also want to look for a hybrid coaching and consulting model, someone who can, hold both strategy and accountability. They build a roadmap and they also help you walk it after that roadmap has been completed. That's where success really happens with consulting. You want to look for also transparency and approach. They should very clearly articulate their method and the phases and the deliverables, not just vague promises like words of growth or transformation. There needs to be a clear path towards success. You also want to look for further accountability and milestones. You need checkpoints. You need push. You need those core deliverables. Otherwise, it's really just academic and theory, and that is what you can get for free through online resources. You want to also look for chemistry and trust. You should feel safe, challenged and respected. If you enter the engagement doubting, their character, you're never going to let them see behind your walls. You should share a common set of core values going into this relationship. You also want to be looking for flexibility and integrity. The consultant should adapt to your business and your vision, not just bend you into their own model. Their integrity is shown, however, when they say no or this won't work, instead of just selling hope that will maybe later fade into a disaster. Now, that's what to look for. Now, let me share a couple of brutal truths that I've seen and heard recently. Maybe you can relate here. I recently heard of a restaurant operator who hired, a marketing growth consultant promising this, 30 plus revenue uplift in just 60 to 90 days. They had no on the ground experience, just a digital marketing background. They went in, adjusted, some elements of the concept. They recommended changes to the menu even based on market data that they thought they had. And then they ran some social media content and then they backed away. After 6 months, things were even worse. They had confused staff, inconsistent quality, and margins that were worse than when the person got started. What happened was the owner lost faith and just blamed consulting as a whole. That's long-lasting damage that may never be recovered. Another I recently came across was a hotelier who hired a startup consultant only to have a basic feasibility study and a business plan that lacked depth and true analysis and strategy. They were grossly under budget in a variety of categories, and overall, the property and the concept should not have even been approved, as it was deemed after a new analysis not to be feasible from the perspective of market demand. In both cases, operators, were hurt not by bad ambition, but they were hurt by bad guidance. Now, I won't lie, this work, it comes with pressure. As I recently wrote again in that recent article, when someone hires you as a consultant, they're not hiring your expertise, they're hiring your integrity and your leadership and your judgment. Personally, I don't take that lightly. Every day I remind myself that this is not about for me. It's about the people behind the business. It's about the families who really depend on it. It's about the communities that it serves. And it's about the memories and the legacy that it is currently creating. I lean into the humility and the work behind the scenes. I enjoy staying in the moments of discomfort because real consulting and hospitality, it can get messy. It demands reflection and constant learning and really thick skin, but also heart. I don't want to be the one who gives a surface fix. I want to be the one who helps rebuild foundations and who moves, the needle forward on reinventing what success in hospitality really looks like. Now, to the operators who are listening, just don't settle. Don't hire the shiny promise. Ask for depth and hire for that transformation. Your vision and your business and your investment, it deserves the best. And to the coaches and the consultants who maybe feel a little unsettled by this episode, I see you. This is a call to raise the bar. Let's drive out the bad actors together. Let's bring back clarity and respect and true value to this craft. Raise your standards as a consultant. Demand from your clients that they are committed to the process. Don't design for the easy path. Embrace the pressure of transformation for the betterment of the industry. Because in hospitality, every decision, it touches lives. Even the lighting and the service and the flow and the culture and the strategy, it all matters. And real consultants understand that. As I wrap up here, episode 21 wasn't intended to be a big hit piece. It was intended to be a wake-up call. Because in this industry really needs more of us doing things right. More of us refusing lazy coaches and consultants. It needs more of us protecting this role as the privilege that it is. Investors and guests and employees, they feel when a brand is authentic. And that authenticity starts at the top with consulting that's honest and grounded and strategically deep and morally strong. So I'm going to close with this. If you are hiring a consultant, don't just ask about deliverables. Ask them this. What parts of my business will you challenge? What frameworks will you customize? And what will you refuse to do if it doesn't align? And if you are a consultant yourself, that should be your internal question every single day. Thanks for listening to Hospitality Reinvented. Until next time, stay bold, stay strategic, and let's keep reinventing hospitality together.